Hello everyone. So I've never seen any of the Elm Street movies. I had heard of them through osmosis, but I had never actually seen any of them. Well, besides Freddy vs. Jason, but that doesn't really count, right? I'm reviewing all the movies, so this is gonna be a long one. Let's just start. Not gonna let that burn through the whole review, because I'm gonna be talking for a long time.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
So first things first, the concept for this series is just incredible. The premise is so good that I was too scared to watch any of these movies as a kid. The series is about Freddy Krueger. He kills kids in their dreams, and basically, if you die in the dream, you die in real life. Sleep is where you're most vulnerable and you can't avoid it. So the idea that this guy can kill you in your dreams is just, it's horrifying. And this is something I'll get into with the sequels, but it's also really flexible. Because he's attacking kids in their dreams, you basically have infinite options when you're trying to create a kill scene. I think what makes the movie so scary is epitomized in the famous bathtub scene. Taking something where you feel safe and making it not safe anymore. And that's not even to mention the great practical effects on display with all of the dream sequences. The visuals in this movie are just so iconic that saying that they're good feels like saying water is wet. Like the girl who rotates crawling around her own room with a rotating room. It's incredible. Like, do you need me to tell you that? Look at it. But I think the main selling point of this movie is the atmosphere that it creates. You know, the empty wide shots of the streets that are just covered in fog, and the music that's incredible.
Tina?
Bro, come over here, come over here. Check out my new shoes. They're the brand new
1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, buckle some more. 5, 6, Nike kicks.
Another thing I like about this movie is that it never explains the magic rules of Freddy's powers. You don't need it, for one, and for two, it takes away a bit of his mysterious, ethereal quality. You don't need it. It works better as a mystery. Although I will say, the one aspect of the movie that I think hasn't aged well is the mystery surrounding Freddy Krueger. And I know that sounds contradictory, but a lot of this movie is based around the mystery of what happened to Freddy Krueger. The whole backstory of Freddy Krueger being a child murderer and the parents of the kids fighting back and killing him. That is the reveal of the movie. And it's not the movie's fault that this is aged poorly, but it's aged poorly. I had never seen any of the movies, and I knew that was Freddy Krueger's backstory. So this whole element of the movie didn't really work for me. And of course we have to talk about the thing that I think most people know the series for, and the thing that really differentiated it from other slashers at the time, having a charismatic killer as opposed to just a silent one.
Please, God.
This is God.
He just loves talking shit, and you gotta respect that. Robert Englund kills it in all of these movies. You know, he's actually a classically trained actor. Like, he's a serious actor, man. I'm jumping the gun a little bit, but in part 2, the studio was tight on money, and they wanted to cheap out by recasting Freddy. And they actually tried it. They shot a couple scenes, and immediately realized it was not going to work. So they brought back Robert Englund. He was so good that they had to get him back. Another thing that's maybe not a flaw, but just a quirk is the 80s isms.
Hey,
Up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Up yours with a twirling lawnmower?
Up yours with a twirling lawnmower.
Some of the acting is a little rough, but ultimately I don't think it hurts the movie. But I think it kind of works in like a Silent Hill way, where the sort of off-kilter performances kind of add to the sense that something's wrong, and it kind of creeps you out in a weird sort of way.
Booby traps and improvised anti-personnel devices? Well, what are you reading that for?
I'm into survival.
I sort of take the story as a metaphor for how trauma passes down between generations. Like, the parents went through this traumatic thing with their kids, and now the kids have to deal with it because their parents couldn't. And I think it fits with the ending where Nancy sort of takes her power back from Freddy.
I take back every bit of energy I gave you. You're nothing. You're shit.
I think that's a really nice way to wrap it up, but the actual ending itself kind of sucks.
1, 2, buckle my shoe. 3, 4, buckle some more.
Yeah, overall, it's a classic for a reason. I didn't have a lot of jokes in this one because it's just great. What do you want me to say about it?
A Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 2. Freddy's Revenge.
This movie is still good. I've always heard like, oh, horror sequels always suck, and they always bring up the Halloween sequels, which true, Friday the 13th sequels, which true, and the Nightmare on Elm Street sequels. So I went into this one expecting just complete garbage, and I got like classy garbage. So the plot of this movie is that the main character, Jesse, Freddy wants his body.
I need you, Jesse. You've got the body. I've got the brain.
Yeah, so this movie's gay.
Something is trying to get inside my body.
Yeah, and she's female and she's waiting for you in the cabana. And you want to sleep with me.
And I thought it was a joke, like similar to how people say Top Gun is gay. Like, no, it's actual subtext.
What is it? Jesse, what's wrong?
The writer at the time claimed no homo, but
you know, we've always pussyfooted around this. Look, it was supposed to be subtext, all right? It really was.
David Chaskin, without a doubt, knew what he was writing.
You have to remember, again, this was the 1980s. This was post-AIDS.
People were really out a lot then. Freddy could represent the self-hatred, you know, in the gay community. He could also represent just the taunt.
You son of a bitch!
and I love a lot of the imagery of Jesse and Freddy being the same person. I think Mark Patton, the actor playing Jesse, gives a good, if unconventional performance. I'm so used to like male characters in these movies being the tough guy, I'm gonna fight the killer type character. It is novel seeing a male character actually being like vulnerable and scared. So that's all fine and dandy, but this movie is dumb. Like, there's just a scene where a snake shows up out of nowhere. How the fuck? And they imply the bullies put the snake, the class snake. Do classes have snakes and like put it on Jesse. But like, how the fuck does that work? How did no one notice it, for one? And how did Jesse not notice a snake being put on him? I think you'd notice. The teacher's just like,
if you want to play with animals, Mr. Walsh, join the circus.
You could just put a live snake on someone and they'd be like, boys will be boys. Anyway, let's talk about Freddy. I think a big aspect of what makes this movie work is just that Freddy isn't doing the same thing he did in the first movie. You know, this whole body stealing aspect is new. He's not just looking... It's not just a new group of teens that he's going to kill one by one. He's doing something different, which helps him maintain a bit of his mystique, because we don't know exactly what he's doing. But I think a downside of it is that Freddy doesn't have as many fun things to do in this one. Like, so much so that at times in the movie I was thinking, was this a retrofitted script? Like, did someone just write a script and then New Line bought it and said, make this a Freddy movie? That happened with Saw 2, so it wouldn't be the first... Well, it would be the first time because this came out like 20 years before. So it would be the first time, but it wouldn't have been the last time. That was a pointless tangent. I apologize.
Damn it! Ow! Watch out!
Is that a fucking bird attacking them? Why did the bird just explode? You can't just... Why did the bird just explode?
What are you doing, Jesse? Help me move this thing.
It isn't the gas.
Don't tell me it's not the gas.
What, a faulty gas line? How the fuck would that...
I mean, animals just don't explode into flames for no reason, do they?
That's right.
What?
You set this whole thing up.
What are you talking about?
You know damn well what I'm talking about. What'd you use? Firecrackers? You know what he did? He used a goddamn cherry bomb.
Oh. Fireworks?
Come back here, Jesse!
Stop it, you're being ridiculous. That's
Jesse!
wrong. Stop it!
No, movie. You can't just move past this bird that just attacked them and exploded. Did Freddy do that? Does he have bird powers? What is going... What? You can't... Okay, the main problem with this movie is that there's just almost no structure. It's just spooky shenanigans. And the characters just move from one spooky shenanigan to the other. They should have called it Spooky Shenanigans on Elm Street. It feels like we're kind of hitting the same beats over and over again. The ending, we get some more Freddy fun, but it's a bit too much. But it's also too little too late at the same time. I don't know how that's possible, but it's true. And it seems like there was no choreography or anything. And again, there's no like structure to it. He just shows up at a pool party and everyone starts crying and screaming.
Crying, pissing, shitting, shooting ropes.
So it's a mixed bag. There's some really good stuff in here, but it's just too messy to really be anything great.
Here's my review. Not gay enough.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3.
This movie fucks. This opening fucks. Oh no, the kid is a skeleton. Oh no, I'm a boomer. After having mixed feelings on Part 2, I'm back on board. So Freddy slashes Kristen, the main character's wrist, which ends up getting her sent to the psych ward. I'm so glad I got to watch these movies having absolutely no expectations, because I was genuinely shocked when Nancy showed back up. So Nancy works as an intern in this psych ward, right? And when Kristen is having a nightmare, she accidentally pulls Nancy into her dream. We did it. Worm Freddy. And then the movie just starts getting weird. Kristen befriends some other patients in the psych ward, and they start revealing that in their dreams they have powers, and they explain their powers in a magnificent scene.
In my dreams, I can walk. My legs are strong. In my dreams, I am the Wizard Master.
Kincaid, please. That's very unnerving.
Hey, check out Tara.
In my dreams, I'm beautiful. And bad.
I love how her dream power is just being a goth dommy mommy. Like, the other powers are actually things you couldn't do in real life. And she's just like, I want to wear leather and have a mohawk, and it's like you could do that, but that's like nitpicking. I love this scene. It's so goofy and cheesy, but I love it. I love that this movie just took the idea as an excuse to have creative scenes. And you can tell because a lot of the death scenes are really good. There's this great visual of Freddy like puppeteering one kid to jump off of a building. It's really scary.
Philip.
I've been kind of memeing on this movie, but it's good.
He wasn't strong enough, so he got wasted. That's all.
That's all? Is that what you think?
He couldn't hack it, so he got nailed. Period.
Oh, yeah. Big, tough badass. How long are you gonna last?
I'm gonna last longer than any of you.
I think we're all missing the point here. Philip's death was a sleepwalking accident, nothing more.
Oh, I could see him up there. His face. He was wide awake.
I'm not going to listen to any more of this. How much longer are you going to go on blaming your dreams for your own weakness?
Later, how much longer you gonna keep blowing smoke up our ass?
But also this movie makes up for the last one by delivering on the Freddy funsies, as I call them.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Your big break in TV. Although I will say one issue is that the movie shines when it's focusing on the kids and Freddy, but when they don't focus on them, it gets a little dull. Not totally dull, but just a little bit. They get a bit too much into the lore of what's happening. Every time you kind of change the lore or retcon things, or I guess it doesn't technically retcon anything, but it just writes new lore underneath the already existing lore. And every time you do that, it makes it matter less. So Kristen wakes up and it was all a bad dream. Until Freddy reveals that he really likes burgers.
I said, where's the fucking bourbon?
You should listen to your mother.
God damn it, Kristen, you ruin everything. Every time I bring a man home, you spoil it. You know what your shrink says? You're just trying to get a little attention.
But have no fear, Kristen uses her super dream acrobatics to get away. That's not a joke, that's really what happens. And have no fear, goth punk dream mommy is here to save the day. This movie is incredible. It has a knife fight between a goth girl and Freddy Krueger. But apart from the cheese of the scene, which I love, it actually ends in a really scary note, where earlier in the movie they established that she was a drug addict and that's why she ended up in the psych ward. And the knives on the fingers of Freddy's glove.
Let's get high.
I think one of the scariest things about this series is seeing Freddy use the kids' own struggles against them, which is a scary idea. It's simple, and you start to see it in the later movies where they set up a kid and they have one problem that Freddy is going to exploit. But I think here is the best example of tapping into that horror that Freddy will use your own biggest insecurities and fears against you. But then it goes downhill a bit when the wizard kid fights Freddy and he just dies. Like, it's not even a creative death, he just gets stabbed.
Sorry, kid. I don't believe in fairy tales.
There's also a scene where Freddy's skeleton attacks. That should have been the name of this movie, to be honest. We're building a good series here. So long story short, Freddy explodes when holy water gets poured on his bones. Obviously. This movie fucking rules. It's so cheesy and corny, but I just love how unabashedly it is all of those things. It completely revels in what it's trying to do. I think the first is better in terms of its simplicity and effectiveness, but I definitely had more fun watching 3. It's just so wild, you have to respect it. I have liked all 3 of the movies up until this point.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 4. The Dream Master.
Okay, this is kind of the first one where it is just a new group of kids for Freddy to kill, but I'm actually kind of okay with it because it's the first time they've done it. There's been 2 whole movies of doing completely different things. This opening music is awesome. I don't remember how the song goes. And then we get Kincaid again from the 3rd movie. He was probably my favorite character in the last movie.
This ain't my dreamland.
I've never been here before.
And then a dog pisses fire to awaken Freddy. I know I just got done praising the last movie for being unapologetically weird, but this just kind of feels lazy to me. So anyways, Kincaid dies, and it's like, great, my favorite character in the whole series thus far is dead. And then the other likable character from part 3 gets killed. Although I do like Freddy's quip.
How's this for a wet dream?
So Alice, the new main character, talks with Kristen from part 3. Nancy died at the end of the last one, by the way. Spoilers, I guess. They talk about this concept of the Dream Master, someone who can... They're basically just a lucid dreamer. They can control their dreams. It's lucid dreaming. I don't know. But on the other hand, this mythology has to be inconsistent. Like, I wasn't paying attention to this because I was just thinking about like what I was enjoying or not about the movies. I know for a fact someone could do like a breakdown on the mythology and all of the contradictions about it. It has to be contradictory. I swear they've changed the lore at some point. Because in the first movie, there was just blood shooting out of the bed. And it was obviously like some supernatural force doing this. But in this movie, it's more so like there's this one scene where Freddy sucks this girl dry.
Wanna suck the face?
No.
But to everyone else, it just looks like she's having a bad asthma attack. Like, I think both ideas are fine on their own, but the movies cannot decide from one movie to the next which they're doing. But even if I miss something and it's totally consistent, why should I care about this mythology in this movie when I know in the next movie you're just gonna say it's not important anymore? It's just, oh, this is what I like. Spoilers, this is a problem that the series just continually runs into.
Anyway, Kafka and Garrett have never been irreconcilable to me.
Anyway, Kafka and Garretto have never been irreconcilable to me. That's a line. So Kristen dreams she's on the beach, which gives us this incredible shot of Freddy putting on some sunglasses. She accidentally brings Alice into her dream and then dies. Her franchises, if you keep characters alive and give them plot armor, it's obvious that that's what you're doing and there's no real stakes. But on the other hand, if you kill off all your legacy characters, it's just depressing. But I feel like the Dream Master is particularly bad because it just spends the first 40 minutes of the movie killing off all the remaining characters from part 3. Like, they do try and establish the new characters, like, but it's not enough. So when Kristen died, I was like, okay, that's fine, but I didn't really know who Alice was as a character other than she's the new lead. The characters just aren't really as good here. Alice has a bit of a thing where her dad's an abusive piece of shit, but I felt it was underdeveloped. I think it could have been really interesting, but it just fell flat for me. Not the Pepsi! And don't let me get you wrong, I've been kind of trashing on this movie, but there's still good stuff here. Like, this whole movie theater scene is just incredible. Like, her getting sucked into the screen, watching herself from the screen, watching herself asleep, Freddy taunting her insecurities of working at this diner forever. And Freddy is just fucking hilarious in this scene. You can tell Robert Englund is just having a blast playing this character. There's a bit in this scene where he just goes,
If food don't kill you, the service will.
He eats a meatball pizza where all the meatballs are kids he's previously killed. And when he eats one of them, he's like,
The usual. Rick, you little meatball.
So basically the gist of the plot is that he's killed off all the Elm Street descendants. Like all the kids he's trying to kill. He's doing but he needs to kill.
I need to kill! I need to kill!
So he starts using Alice because she was gifted the powers of Kristen, and Alice is being abused by Freddy, Alice has got Kristen's dream transference sucking in power, and Freddy is using that to have her dream and to pull other kids into her dream and kill them. That's the story. That's the plot of this movie. I know it sounds convoluted. But anyway, we get another genuinely like wince-inducing death scene where Freddy turns this girl into a bug and squishes her. Is this why they referenced Kafka earlier? Was that actually like the point of that line? The way they defeat Freddy in this movie is just stupid. Alice just shoves a mirror in Freddy's face and he dies. I make fun, but honestly, apart from maybe the first movie, this is the best Freddy death in the whole series. I think the first one's better as like the thematic conclusion of that movie, but in terms of just a cool death scene, this is the better one. Basically, all the souls that he has collected from these children are just escaping out of him, and you see their heads like erupting from inside him. It's gross, it's scary, but it's also, I just think that there's something so fitting about the kids that he's killed ultimately being his downfall. Yeah, this is the best Freddy death. I think if any of the Freddy deaths were going to stick, it should have been this one. But money. This ain't art. Freddy raps during the credits, for fuck's sake.
Freddy Krueger's the name. You know my game. Elm Street's the place.
Again, a mixed bag. It's not terrible. I think most horror sequels would kill for a sequel that is this solid and this good. But it's between this and 2 for my least favorite thus far.
A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child.
So the whole concept for this movie was some studio executive learned that babies have dreams in the womb, and they said, I have a great idea. Like, I imagine if the series kept going, one of the writers would have discovered that dogs dream, and we would have got a whole sequel out of it. Speaking of dogs...
I'm a dog. I'm biting the fart bubbles into bath.
Let's not beat around the bush here. This movie sucks. This is the first truly awful movie in the series. Like, I was just watching it, and I was actually blown away by how bad the acting is.
So let's blow this pop stand.
Well, we gotta do something.
So I can lock up after I'm done.
Party.
Why does this guy have a giant lollipop at his high school graduation? This mom starts hamming it up, telling her daughter not to eat the lollipop.
Greta, that's not what a cover girl puts in her body. Shit.
And it's like, what? This Brooklyn dad's like, hey, Storm, then come get immortalized.
Hey, Mark, picture time. Come get immortalized. Parents and brats.
Like, what the fuck is happening? And we're not even 10 minutes through the movie yet. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? This scene is just rapid fire nonsense. I was surprised at how good 1, 2, 3, and 4 all were. But this one is shits for the birds. So it may seem from that scene alone that this is like a funny, bad movie, but it's really not. So much of this movie is just stupid lore that I do not care about. Like, I think I would have more fun reading the Nightmare on Elm Street wiki. And it just ties into that same problem I keep talking about, where why should I care about this movie's explanation of the lore when part 6, when I know full well that part 6 is just gonna say, oh, you thought that was everything you needed to know? Well, there's so much more lore underneath the lore we told you in the last movie. And it's like, so why should I care? And it's not like a small part in the movie. Like 3, I was into the characters and the story going on, and there were good scenes going on. But here I'm like, I don't care about any of the characters really. I guess kind of I care about Alice a bit, but it's just so much of it is bogged down in this stupid explanations of the mythology, and I don't care. Like, I'm officially over this constantly changing mythology. I was fine with it in part 3 because they used it as an excuse to be creative. Part 4 was pushing it a little bit, but there was enough good stuff that I was like, okay. And then this one just, it's ridiculous. And it has boring characters and bad dialogue and bad acting. Party! And even Freddy, like, he's still great because Robert Englund's great, the character's great, but even his quips aren't that good.
We'll see, bitch.
And the kills are still okay, but they're too few and far between, and they're not like all-time series highlights or anything. Like, I like the scene where the girl who's very pressured by her mother to watch her figure and not eat anything bad for her, Freddy force feeds her to death.
Bon appetit, bitch.
Again, playing into using your own insecurities against you. But then you get like the comic book death scene, which I just hated. Again, I've been praising the third movie and a lot of the series for its stupidity, but I think there's a level of silliness where it just becomes lazy. Like, oh, comic book, he likes comic books, so now it's a comic book now. And then we're doing the same thing where like no one believes the main character about what's going on, and it's like, we're doing this again? It's the same movie. It's just terrible. The MC Escher shot is funny. I don't know, man. I'm not even going to go any more in depth into this movie because I was so bored. I was so irritated. I'm not even going to go into this movie. It's just some shit. Some shit happens, the end. I don't even want to talk about this movie any longer than I have to. It's that bad. It sucks, the end.
Freddy's dead. The final nightmare.
So here we are. What is commonly considered to be the worst Freddy movie. It's not. I get why this is regarded as the worst, but 5 was just so dull and boring and uninteresting that the stupidity of this one, at least it's entertaining in a sicko kind of way. I mean, in the first few minutes, Freddy as the Wicked Witch is fun.
I'll get you, my pretty, and your little soul too.
Freddy himself, he's hamming it up again. Just wild shit is happening to this kid. And there's a random rock song. I'm in. This is already better than part 5. Part 5 just got so bogged down in explaining the lore and the mythology, and I just didn't care about any of it. This one goes, yeah, all that stuff's stupid. Let's just do stupid shit. There's some attempts to explain lore here. There's a bit where one of the characters is Freddy's daughter. I think it's more interesting than whatever the fuck they were trying to do with part 5. And it's not as emphasized as it was in part 5, so I'm okay with it. This one is just bogged down with stupidity. And it's bad, don't get me wrong. Like, this movie sucks, but it is better than part 5. I maintain that 5 is the worst of the series. Because at least I sort of cared a bit, kind of, where I cannot say the same about for part 5. I think what's bad about this movie is that while the others were silly, they were still trying to scare you. They were still firmly horror. Here it just feels like a farce. But again, it's better than part 5. At least the death scenes when taken on their own are fun in that Freddy corny kind of way. Like this deaf kid, Carlos, gets a super hearing aid from Freddy, and Freddy's like, oh, I got a bunch of nails. I'm gonna drop them.
You wouldn't do that, would you, man?
I think he would, actually. And then he brings out a fucking chalkboard, and I laughed out loud. And then he stretches the chalkboard so he can run his whole glove across it.
Nice hearing from you, Carlos.
Okay, the one-liner afterwards wasn't that good, but there's no time to dwell on that. We got a Johnny Depp jump scare coming up.
This is your brain. This is your brain on drugs. Questions?
And he gets pwned by Freddy.
Yeah! What are you on?
And then the video game kid gets sucked into the video game by Freddy.
Now he's gone.
And then this is where the movie officially goes off the fucking rails. So Freddy is kicking this kid's ass in his dream.
Now I'm playing with power.
And this other kid is trying to convince this lady of what's happening, right? And the kid being beat up shoots into the ceiling, and for some reason she does not believe that anything weird's going on. And the other kid is just so casual about it. He's like, I told you so.
Well, what do you call that? Rational?
I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. This kid is dying. And then the kid starts jumping. And punching.
He's getting trashed.
This shit is so funny. And there's like cartoon sound effects. I could see why people call this the worst, but it is just not to me. You know, at least I'm having fun with this one and not completely bored out of my mind. And anyway, it's revealed that this was just a blatant ad for Nintendo.
Get out of here now, please.
Hey, you forgot the power glove.
And then she jumps really high, and it's like, what the fuck is happening? And then we get like the funniest sequence of events ever where he says,
Nothing is gonna make me get off this bed. Damn it!
And then he goes,
I hate this house.
And then he yeets himself out of his own window.
I hate this house.
It's like the funniest 20 seconds I've ever seen. Why did they drive through a glass version of the environment to reveal the exact same environment underneath it? Like, it wasn't a transition. What was it? When the movie gets stupid, I kind of like it in an ironic sort of way. But the worst parts of the movie are when it tries to be a movie. Like, the whole backstory for Freddy is unnecessary. And like I said, the daughter twist is not really substantial at all. I think the scene where he's describing to his daughter how he got everything he wanted is really good.
Took all their children away from them. And now, that's over.
And even though it's a corny line, him saying,
every town has an Elm Street.
I think it's a cool way to make this feel like the conclusive final movie. And it also kind of continues the theme of generational trauma that I thought the first one was about. You know, the fact that Freddy's daughter is being brought into it kind of helps that theory and is continuing that theme. And the fact that he's just going to move on to a new city and do the same thing again, I think it does kind of fit. Like, even though the physical elements of the trauma have been dealt with, the scars are still there in a way. and he's just going to go somewhere else. It's nothing groundbreaking, and again, the movie sucks. This is the same movie where he's jumping and punching. So anyway, Freddy exposits for no reason, and he just reveals that he's just a guy with a 9 to 5.
The dream people, the ones that gave me this job.
After all this shit and after all the constantly changing mythology, the actual answer was he just has a job. It's just his job. He's just, you know, he's a fucking like office grunt. He can't die until he gets like fired or something. And the effects at the end are just ew. I guess it's kind of neat seeing Robert Englund play Freddy without the makeup. It's nothing, but it's something. So after everything that Freddy has been through, how does he die? He just gets a stick of dynamite shoved up his chest. Yeah, Nancy, you fucking idiot. Why would you do this whole you're nothing, you're shit? You could have just had a stick of dynamite and shoved it in his chest, and that would have solved your whole problem right there. And then the movie just abruptly ends.
Freddy's dead.
I did not edit that. That is actually how the movie ends. They even give him a fucking rest in peace at the end. This one is so fucking stupid, but if you like So Bad It's Good things or things in of that ilk, I think you can have a great time with this one. Unlike Part 5. This movie is incredible. It's just so outstanding in every aspect. So Wes Craven is making his big return to the series that he created, the Nightmare on Elm Street series. And no, that is not a description of the making of the movie. It's also the plot of the movie. This movie is about Freddy Krueger intruding on the real world and haunting Heather Langenkamp, the actress who played Nancy. So Wes is making a new Nightmare on Elm Street, and Heather Langenkamp returns as Heather Langenkamp. It's already clear that we're returning to the straight horror of the original. None of that campy stuff or anything like that, just pure horror.
Hello?
1, 2, buckle my...
Hello?
Buckle my shoes!
Someone asks her, is there going to be another Freddy movie? Like, is Freddy really dead?
I'm sure people ask you this all the time. Is there going to be another sequel? And what's more, is Freddy really dead?
Of course he is. Freddy's dead and gone.
It's not just that it's meta, but it also serves as a foreshadowing for Freddy's inevitable return.
The first was the best. My girlfriend's cut open and dragged across the ceiling. It was awesome. I thought I'd shit. Hey, but they never should have killed off Freddy.
Just... And they even play into Freddy becoming a joke, a gag character, where Robert Englund shows up and he's playing up to the crowd and everything. Heather gets a call from New Line Cinema saying they're interested in making a new Nightmare on Elm Street sequel.
How would you like to join us in the definitive nightmare?
I thought you killed Freddy off.
Well, we did, but the fans, God bless them, they're clamoring for more. I guess evil never dies, right?
Evil dies tonight!
And like the writing is just so good. Like there's this really clever reveal where Heather deduces that Wes has been starting to have nightmares like hers.
How long has Wes been working on this script?
I don't know, a couple months. Why?
And since you've been thinking of making it, has anything funny happened?
What do you mean?
Well, like weird phone calls.
God, this is just so fucking good. I'm not always a fan of meta stories. I feel like sometimes they can get a bit too far up their own ass. But I think I love this because the story on its own is great, and also just the building of tension and atmosphere is so good. There are so many fucking good scenes that I'm not going to mention them all here because I don't want to turn this review into just listing every scene I like. But one more. I want to mention this one. After her husband dies and her son's father dies, she has this really frank and touching talk with him about like what happens after you die.
I honestly don't know, honey. Please try to get some sleep.
Again, this is the same series where the guy jumps and punches. I'm not even gonna spoil like how the mystery unfurls or the explanation of what's going on, because the mystery is part of what makes this movie so good, because it's just so incredible at building the atmosphere and the tension that I don't want to spoil that for you. The one issue I have with this movie is the actual exposition scene where they tell you what's going on. I've made it very clear that I prefer leaving things ambiguous, not going too far into the mythology, but I understand that this is such a weird idea that you might need an explanation so people at least have some idea of what's going on. And also the way the movie handles it is probably the best way you could handle it, because Wes Craven himself is explaining the mythology, but he's not like, it's not some bullshit about a nursery rhyme. He's describing his nightmares, and he explicitly frames this information as, this is what the mythology is in my nightmares.
That's what the nightmares are telling me, and that's what I'm writing.
And we as the audience can figure that that is true, but there's still a little tiny speck of ambiguity there. So I think it works. What makes this movie so unsettling is the build-up. Like, most of this movie is just tension building and atmosphere. There's actually very little Freddy funsies in this movie. And it's almost an hour and 10 minutes before Freddy even shows up properly. But when he does, and when the killing actually starts, it's incredible. Freddy is actually scary again. Partially because the kills themselves are cool, but also because we've been building for so long that it feels sweeter.
Miss me.
And what I love about it is that even though they're making Freddy scary again, they don't abandon his jokey side completely. Like, he still has quips.
Hey Dylan, ever played Skin the Cat?
They're not just making him a generic monster demon character. He's still Freddy. He's just not a joke anymore. Nor do they remove the fantastical nightmare scenes. There's this great scene where Heather's son walks into traffic because he's scared, and Freddy is like maneuvering traffic and hovering over them, and it's really good. Another problem I have with the movie is the ending feels a bit, it just doesn't seem as well thought out as the rest of the movie. It's just a lot of fighting and wrestling, and it's just, maybe it's just that the rest of the movie was so incredible that any ending would have felt like at least a little bit of a letdown, but it by no means ruins it for me. And it has this incredible, horrifying visual of Freddy trying to eat the kid. It's just a great fucking movie. And I know a lot of people make fun of the effect at the end where Freddy dies, and it is bad, but like, this is just a tremendous movie. And I think the film is ultimately about how even though stories aren't real, and dreams aren't real, and nightmares aren't real, they all come from a real place. And I think it's exemplified by the end where Nancy reads the script to New Nightmare to her son. And they're kind of comforted by reading what happened to them.
Is it a story?
Yeah, it's a story.
I think it demonstrates how stories can be therapeutic in their own way. Taking something real and expressing it through something that is not real can have a therapeutic quality to it. I think it's a really beautiful ending. Love this movie.
Freddy versus Jason.
I was debating whether or not to talk about Freddy versus Jason because we're just gonna do a lightning round on this one, just a quick review. The fight scenes between Freddy and Jason are cool, but the rest is boring character stuff, like the most boring character stuff. There's a couple cool things with the mythology, like the town trying to erase Freddy's existence, but they never develop it, and it doesn't help the movie at all. Overall, just watch the fight scenes and you're good. There's not much to say with this one either, so I'm also just going to do a lightning round. Shouldn't have remade this. I think modern technology would allow for more creative death scenes, but they don't take advantage of it. They just do death scenes from the first movie, which is so lame. You know, CG could allow for so many more opportunities for creative death scenes. But why do that when you can do the bathtub scare again? And also, it's just hard to see anyone else but Robert Englund play Freddy. I know it's not their fault, like Robert Englund's too old now, but it's still hard to see someone else play Freddy. So that was all the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Talk about a mixed bag. Though I was surprised at how many quality sequels there were. And I do hope that the series comes back, but I don't think it would happen. I think it's just me being hopeful, because in reality it would probably just be nostalgia bait, references to old death scenes, and I don't know. But what is my ranking of the movies? At the very bottom is the remake. Just nothing to say about it. It's totally pointless and just shit. Next is part 5. Again, just nothing to say about it. Just some shit. Next would be part 6. It's really bad, but it's kind of funny. So I rank it above the other two.
For some reason, I forgot to talk about Freddy vs. Jason.
Then there's a large quality gap. And then is number 2. Some interesting ideas, but just too messy to really be worth anything. Then is part 4, which has some good stuff in it too, but it's just too all over the place, and a lot of it's just not that good. Then I'm gonna put number 3. It's probably the best if you want the essence of the silliness of Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, the 2 I put above it are better movies, but they're also more serious, and they're more pure horror. If you want a bit of the silliness that I think most people think of when they think of the series, then 3 is the way to go. Next, maybe controversial, but I'm going to put the original Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a classic for a reason. It's so good at building the atmosphere and the tone, and it deserves credit for coming up with this idea that spawned the whole franchise. But, in my opinion, my favorite was Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So unique, so good at building the tension, so good at everything it tried to do. Just an incredible fucking movie. So that was it. That was the ranking. My voice is very tired. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. Please tell me how my opinions are wrong. Thank you for watching. Happy Halloween!